Morning, everyone. Welcome to Simple Talk Series 31. We are here to discuss about rainwater harvesting. It's a very interesting topic. Though it is very familiar topic, still people have a lot of confusions and questions or, things they don't know about it. So we have gathered here for this to discuss about rainwater harvesting in detail, about its importance and the implementation. CGBMT organizes Simple Talk series in a very grand way and covering all the different topics. So today the interesting topic is about the rainwater harvesting, and this is Simple Talk series 32. About CGBMT, the Center for Green Building Materials and Technology. It is an Indian non-government organization that was established in April 26, 2004. And the trust was founded by architect Neelam Manjunath as a response to the dearth of awareness and human resources for sustainable development and lifestyle to reach sustainable development goals. Our work responds to the environmental issues of our times through eco-education, advocacy, research and development, and on the ground community projects. This is architect Radhika Gopinath. I am the program manager and senior volunteer for CGBMT. I'm going to be anchoring this program for you. So this year we have planned for a campaign called Simplifying Skilling, which makes very easy for people to understand how to implement the different types of skills. So CGBMT has successfully completed 18 years of its existence, and we are now taking this one step further with our campaign for 2022 to 23. So in which we are drawing the spotlight on efforts for skilling and livelihood generation in the sustainability sector, through which we can secure food, shelter, water, and energy security, improved quality for environment and life, and at the same time, which equips people with the skills to be self-sufficient. So this time, for a twist, not just a simple talk, it has been connected with mostly workshop, and this time we are going to extend this with the site visit as well. So for this, we have welcomed a resource person who is Dr. Shubha Ramachandran from Biome Environmental Trust. Welcome, ma'am. We are very happy that you could make out time to connect to this simple talk. So let me share a small brief about her. Shubha Ramachandran leads the water team at Biome Environmental Trust. She has been designed and implemented several rainwater harvesting and wastewater treatment systems, primarily in and around the city of Bangalore. At Biome, she has been working on understanding groundwater, wastewater, and wetlands. And also she's a TEDx speaker and has also represented Biome at the World Water Week in Stockholm. And basically, she is a civil engineer from IIT Mumbai. So before handing over the stage to Dr. Shubha ma'am, I would request our founder, architect Neelam Manjunath ma'am, to formally welcome her and give a small introduction.
Yeah. Welcome, Shubha, to our simple talk and our mission for simplifying skilling and being a part of it. I have been associated with Biome for a long time, with Chitra and Vishwanath, and who have been doing very commendable work on water security, not just in India, even internationally. And I think CGBMT is extremely proud, and I think it's an honor to be associated to do at least some work.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hi. So many thanks to CGBMT for giving us this opportunity, for giving me Shubha and Biome Environmental Trust to speak about rainwater harvesting. A little bit about the way we look at rainwater harvesting. We talk about it now, but it's really about our water culture, about how we value the water, the rain that falls on our head directly, as opposed to the other sources of water that we pick, whether it be our deep borewells or water that we source from rivers and dams much further away from us. So it's about how we take care of the water that's available to us. About Biome, like was mentioned very gracefully by Radhika earlier, we are a group that looks at water and sanitation in urban and peri-urban areas, primarily, we started off looking at it in and around Bangalore. But now we are looking at not just rainwater harvesting, but wastewater management, educating children on water, and that's related to the site visit that will happen. How do we kind of build a 360 and complete ecosystem for managing water sustainably? That's really the hope. So before getting into rainwater harvesting, I thought it's always fun, and we're going to see this in the site visit as well. Most cities that were set up were initially along river banks so that there would be access to water. But when you're close to a river, the challenge is that the river floods and then you stand to lose your homes and all your belongings. So what people started to do was move away from the river, but still they wanted the water security. And how that was gotten was by digging a hole in the ground where you would find water. So this is nothing but an open well. And this is to demonstrate to us that, and we'll come to it later, about how this could also be a source of water. Over a period of time, this evolved, and these are old open wells, not just in Bangalore, but from across the country. This well you see is at Sarnath. It's expected that maybe even Buddha drank from this well, and that's from 500 BC. This is much closer home from Hampi, the Vijayanagar kingdom. And this well is still closer along a lake that's called the Jakkur Lake, which is not very far from the site that you will be visiting, where there is still water and the water is also used. At the same time, because we started with rainwater harvesting as also about building a water culture, over a period of time, those very wells, which were sources of water for us, which were revered, sometimes even prayed to, this is what has happened to a lot of wells over a period of time. So there is something that perhaps we've forgotten. As much as this is about the skill, but this is about the art and reverence for water as well, and acknowledging that we really have to manage it better if we want to manage our lives better. Now quickly coming to that was just to set up a precursor to say how we are approaching the entire topic. Now, like we all know, given especially in the southern part of the country where we have no access to glacial melt rivers, the only water that we get is all coming to us from rain. Whether we then take it out from our rivers or from groundwater, from deep bore wells, open wells, lakes, finally the source of all water is rain. And what has really changed as we have urbanized, though now the rainfall patterns are also changing, what we observe is primarily this is what has happened. Earlier, when the land was not built up, there were more trees, there was more undergrowth, the land itself was not exposed or hard. Of the rain that fell, some of it was intercepted by the trees themselves. The surface runoff would not be as much because the water would percolate a little bit, and we have what are known as interflows and base flows. This would happen. And there would also be some water that's lost to evapotranspiration. Over a period of time, as we built our surfaces, what really has happened is that our surface runoff has increased because the ground has become harder. The water, as it falls on the ground, is not able to percolate into the ground. And that's why you can see that the interflows and base flows have reduced, but the surface runoff has increased. So, and what has happened as a result of this, especially in urban areas, is that in summer there is water scarcity. Sometimes across the year there is water scarcity because there is not enough water under the ground, or the rivers are not able to supply. And as we just observed in Bangalore and actually across the world, many parts have experienced extreme urban flooding because now the ground is crusted, the water has nowhere to go. In many cases, our lakes or rivers have been encroached upon, and that results in urban flooding. So what can we do about all of this, and how does this set the stage for rainwater harvesting? I think because the runoff has increased, in a way, the potential to hold on to that water has also increased. So we have to see, given our current circumstance, how do we make the most of the rainwater that falls on us? Very simply put, there are these 5 components in rainwater harvesting, what is called the catchment. So the catchment is where the water falls. In this picture, as we see, it is the sari where the rainwater falls. Then, or in the case of a building, it's the roof. If it's a farm, it's the farmland. So any land on which the rainwater falls, we call it the catchment. From there, the water has to be conveyed and taken to a point where you're going to use it for some purpose. So that's called the conveyance. So if you were to look at a house with a sloping roof, it would be a gutter. If it's a college campus, there are down pipes. Or if it's just a road, there are drains on the side. So all of these are various modes of conveyance for taking the water from one place to another, for wherever you want to use it subsequently. Then normally there is a process of filtration, because depending on what you want to use the water for, and we will speak about that and you'll be seeing it on your site visit as well, you have to filter the water appropriately. If you're going to be using it for, say, drinking and cooking, you have to be much more careful with your filtration. If you're going to use it only for other domestic purposes like cleaning, washing, bathing, you don't have to bring it to potable water quality standards. And if you're going to be using it for groundwater recharge, the standards can be different, and we'll cover that. So once you have conveyed the water, filtered it, brought it to a point, you can either store it or you can use it for groundwater recharge. So broadly, these are the two ways in which you can harvest the water. So you store it, use it subsequently, or you put it into the ground and it is going to be used for groundwater recharge. In this case, though this is not a picture we just put up, it's actually a scene from Wayanad where there is a whole lot of rainfall, but still potable, good quality water is not easily available. So the lady of the house has set this system up whereby once her pot is full, she has drinking, cooking water for every day. And she doesn't have to walk down to the river or a stream for where she has to source this water. And here the SARI is the catchment, conveyance, and filter. But when we actually design these systems, they're a lot more complex. And a lot of this information that I'm speaking about is also available on a site called urbanwaters.in. We'll cover it later in the presentation, but it's called, and we are trying to build a site like this for every city. Right now we have bengaluru.urbanwaters.in, but over a period of time, there is also tumkuru.urbanwaters.in. But the idea is to have Chennai, Hyderabad, all of these cities are going to be coming up pretty quickly, where you know about the rainfall in a particular area, how do you harvest it, your lakes, wastewater, groundwater, all of that. Now, an important part of rainwater harvesting is really to understand how much rain do you get, because that will decide how much water can be harvested. And it's not only about how much, but how the rainfall is distributed as well. Because if it's not going to rain for many months in the year, then any system that you have set up will lie unused for that portion. So in a city, we're taking the example of Bangalore, but we can easily take it to other cities as well. Here, what we see is that if you look carefully at the rainy months, so the heaviest rains are received in May, just before the actual start of the monsoons. And then we have reasonably heavy rains in September, October as well. And then roughly you would see that for about 6 to 8 months of the year, there is reasonable rainfall. And the really dry months are January, February, March, and even December is a dry month. So those are the months when there is not as much rain. But even in those months, there is some rain that comes on here and there. And so you can opportunistically harvest rain. So the question that comes to us then is, okay, it's raining this much. How much can I really harvest? Now, when I say harvest, like I said, it's dependent on the catchment on which the rain falls. So, and it's also important to see how much do I need. So this is an important number as I come to the calculation itself. This is, it's estimated that in urban areas, people need about 135 to 150 liters per person per day. In rural areas at about 55 liters per person per day. And here you see what all the water is used for. The important thing to observe is that we really need very good quality water only for drinking and cooking. That's about 7 liters per day. The other water that we're using for bathing, washing clothes, washing utensils is the next quality of water. And actually the water that we need for flushing and gardening, these are as per the standards, the numbers may vary. You need about 60 liters per day for just flushing and gardening. And this doesn't need to be excellent quality water because it can come to you out of treated wastewater as well. Now, having said this, let's come back to our point about how much water we can harvest. So if we take, let's say, a 30-40 house in Bangalore, with occupying an area of about 110, or even just take these numbers as ballpark, it's not to get to the exact numbers. So what we see is that even for a 30 mm shower, this house that's on a 30-40 plot will receive 3,000 liters of water. And annually, the house can harvest about 96,000 liters of water, and which is equivalent to about 140 days. That is about 4 to 5 months of the year. So a 30-40 house with about 5 members in the house using 135 liters can actually manage to fulfill their water requirements for 4 to 5 months of the year with rainwater harvesting alone. By the time you come to a larger house, you can see that they can harvest for an equivalent of 475 days of water. What that means is they could even be sharing water with their neighbors. So increasingly, we are observing many homes that are able to, and we'll come to the designing and the sizing, which are all very important. And here we're speaking about a home. If I was designing it for an industry, it would depend upon their water consumption. If it is for a hospital, if it's for a school, in each of these cases, the imaginations have to be slightly different. And that's what will be covered much better in the training program. And we can also look at specific circumstances and answer it with question and answers. But this is just to give you a sense for what can be achieved. The next question that we often ask is that, is the rainwater clean? What is the quality of water? What can I use it for? So here we've done just some experiments to tell you that rainwater, if harvested well from a clean catchment, if filtered and used immediately, is excellently pure water. You can get it tested also. The only contaminants that could remain in that is some bacteriological contamination, because if your roof is not kept perfectly clean, there is some growth over there, or there is some dumping of materials, then that's really the starting point of all contamination. So how clean does a clean roof have to be? Not necessarily even as clean as this roof. This is a roof that you can see that's quite clean. Some amount of dust is okay. You have to be careful that there's not a whole lot of bird dropping or not a whole lot of leaf litter. But a reasonably clean roof can give you clean water. And that's what a rainwater harvesting system looks like. You have a pipe that brings down the water. There is a first rain separator here that you see, and we'll speak further about it. This is a very simple filter. It's actually not even really filtering, but allowing for sedimentation. So the water falls here, and then the solid particles settle to the bottom. The overflow water flows into the sump, from where it can be pumped and used in the house. The overflow from this sump flows into a recharge well, from where it percolates into the ground. When this also fills up and overflows, it can flow out into the stormwater drain, where we make sure that it flows further. In fact, rainwater harvesting is also an important part. You have to look at it like this, that when the land, let's say when the land was not built up, and if on every square meter or on a particular area of land, on 100 square meters of land, let's say, earlier, when the rain would fall, not as much would run off. Let's say only 10 liters would run off from a particular plot of land. But now, because of the crusting up, where we had 10 liters earlier, we will have 90 liters running off. That means 80 additional liters of water running off from a plot of land. Now, this is what can also contribute to flooding, because the land was not expecting to get this additional 80 liters of runoff. If we were to harvest it, it's an extremely beautiful solution for avoiding or mitigating flooding as well. And we have a few case studies to speak about it. How is it done? Very simply, join all the pipes, you can bring it to a storage. Here we see just a few examples to give you a sense for what it can look like. A rain barrel is an easy way to start. This is a filter. This is also a filter, and the tank is also in the filter itself. We'll show you that. This unit is called a first rain separator. The idea is that the initial water that falls on the terrace, we don't try to harvest it or filter it, but there is a gate valve that's provided, using which you can allow that water to drain away. And only after the first 1 or 2 millimeters of rain has come down from the terrace, then we harvest the remaining water by passing it through a filter. A filter can be fairly simple. Here we see a ferrocement filter that's made up of layers of charcoal and small stones and big stones. Very simply put, but the details and the design can vary depending upon the kind of end use you want to put the water to, and we'll speak about that. So these are all just images to show you what the first rain separation can look like, what filters can look like. You can put filters together yourself with plumbing material. There are filters that are also available in the market, ready-made filters, various brands that are much easier to install because they're available off the shelf, and any plumber can easily install it. Here you see it in the basement of an apartment. Here it's at a home, but that's how filters are installed. These are all, again, various rainwater harvesting systems in basements of apartments, in a clubhouse. So to show you that in various buildings, it can be incorporated. Like I mentioned earlier, a rain barrel is really the easiest way. Here, what all you do is that you build a small platform and place a drum on it, and the rainwater falls into it. This is the first rain separator that we spoke about. The filter can be as simple as just a plastic bowl with holes and stones on it. For instance, if you're not going to be using the water for drinking and cooking, and it's only going to be used for other cleaning purposes, then you don't need you can do with basic filtration that looks like this. Again, examples for storage, examples for filters. This is for a college that we had for 3,000 square meters of rooftop. The filter looks like this. This is so much larger. Yeah, and that's the sump. Actually, this is the storage where you see the people sitting on it. That's the storage, because here the rainwater that could be harvested even for a small rainfall event was about 1 lakh liters. So when the rooftop is larger, the volume of water you can store is larger, and then you need a bigger sump and a bigger filter as well. The water can be clean, you can pump it and use it. It's very important to keep in mind levels, because all this while an important factor is that we are not using any energy, but the water is flowing with gravity alone, except for the point when you have to pump it back to your overhead tank, because the philosophy behind rainwater harvesting is to keep it as simple, as maintainable, as local as possible, built with local materials, with local labor, not requiring any expertise that requires for people or materials to come from further away. So using gravity is a very important component of rainwater harvesting. This is a house in the center of the city. This lady didn't have space to build another sump, so she actually bought a 5,000 liter drum. And now when this system is installed, she can go without municipal water supply for 2 weeks at a stretch once her 5,000 liter barrel is full. The water is filled in the barrel, then passes through the filter. That's the filter. It's stored in the sump and used. So this was about storage of rainwater and reuse. We will now speak about groundwater recharge and how we can use this water to recharge the groundwater tables. Radhika, how much time has it taken? I don't have my phone. So.
Shubha, you can continue. I think
I'll continue, but I just wanted to check.
Yeah.
I don't want to overstretch or under.
No. I think it's just enough, I think, and perfect.
Okay, cool. Okay. So the next important thing that we have to think about is this water I can store, but I can't store all the water that comes to me. If there's a heavy rainfall, like how Bangalore received just a couple of days ago at 130 millimeters. So if I just had a 5,000 liter sump, I would not have been able to hold on to all of this water. And also, given that if you look at most of our cities in the country now, more than 50% of urban water requirement, though we may think that we are meeting it with river water, more than 50% is actually being met with groundwater. And groundwater tables are very quickly depleting across the country. And again, when we speak of groundwater, we have to understand it at 2 levels. One is that of the shallow aquifer, where we used to get water from open wells earlier at 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet below ground level, where water was in the shallow aquifer, in weathered or the permeable zone. And also the deep aquifers, where borewells go as deep as earlier. When we started off, the borewells were only as deep as the shallow wells. They would be only 30, 40 feet deep when it started in the 70s and the 80s. But now we have borewells that are going 2,000 feet into the ground, tapping on deep aquifers that we are not able to fully understand, map, or even manage. This is water that has gone down to those depths over a long period of time, our ability to recharge those aquifers cannot be as rapid as our shallow aquifer either. So we really have to look at groundwater as this big bank that we have. We have to put water in short-term deposits, in medium-term deposits, in long-term deposits, such that it is available to us at the time when it's not raining, when water is not available to us. So far, we've only looked at this resource as something that can be extracted, like a never-ending bank from which your father left you money and you can extract from it. But now we have to think that we have to fill the bank so that we can take money out from it as well. And water being most critical, it's important to understand the hydrogeology. Without getting into details, every city has to know for itself at what depths are the shallow aquifer available, the deep aquifers. Often there are multiple aquifers. What is the connectivity? And at the same time, one doesn't have to worry that this is something deeply technical. Many times with observations, talking to your neighbor, talking to the water supply authority, borewell diggers, you can form some understanding of groundwater. This is in Bangalore, very specifically, what we see that recharge structures, which are going to 20 to 30 feet deep, reach what is known as the weathered zone. You can think of the weathered zone as a sponge that is able to hold water very easily and hence needs to be recharged. The deep borewells, however, get water from hard rock, from the cracks and fissures that are there in the rock. And here the recharge rates are not as high. So you have to decide what kind of recharge structures you may want to make. Some examples of wells that are still there in the city, in homes, on roads, community wells. In fact, we are now running a campaign in the city which is called 1 million wells for Bengaluru. And with 1 million wells, the thought is we should be able to manage our groundwater better. This is how a recharge well is made. You dig a pit into the ground till you reach a layer where the water can be absorbed by the ground. It is lined with these concrete rings that are placed one on top of the other. And the annular space between the rings and the ground is filled with stones such that the well does not collapse. And then on top of the well, you either cover it with a concrete slab or a grill just to make sure that there is some amount of security and safety and nobody or nothing can fall into the well accidentally. These wells can be placed in stormwater drains or in homes. We'll speak about this also. Borewells can also be recharged in this manner. So here's what really happens. Water comes into this well and from here percolates out into the ground. And normally what is observed is that in the area close by to the recharge well, the water tables rise fairly significantly. Some images to tell you what these wells in the drains can look like. It's important because in our drains, oftentimes there is plastic or leaf litter, there's other waste that's flowing. So we put in place small in-drain filters or a silt trap or a check dam to obstruct the flow of water. Here, the structure that you see is a check dam. So when the water is flowing in the drain, it obstructs it and gives a pipe to take the water into the well. And from the recharge well, the water percolates into the ground. Again, various images to tell you that even a simple structure like you see at the bottom over here can actually significantly reduce the speed of water, filter the water before it goes into the well. The idea is that if the well starts to fill up with a lot of non-water material, then there is desilting and cleaning of the well that is required. So to reduce your maintenance effort, you try and do as much of the filtration as possible in the drain itself. Also, what is to be kept in mind is that rooftop water is very clean. If you filter it, you can store it and use it for all domestic purposes. Ground surface runoff that's coming from our roads, parks, pavements is not as clean. So it's better to use it for shallow groundwater recharge. And I'll tell you why shallow groundwater recharge and not deep groundwater recharge. So here another example of a well in a drain, which is also taking water from a house. This is actually below the Bangalore metro itself, to tell you that it's not that it has to be in a house or it's also there. This is just right below the Bangalore metro at the MG road. So the water that runs off from the tracks from the station is put into the ground right then and there. This is a certain home. A few examples to tell you how groundwater recharge can benefit people. This gentleman here had a well which dried up after 4-5 years of usage. Subsequently, here what you see is the filter. He recharges the well. Now the well holds water for him all through the year, such that he has cut off his municipal water supply and is able to use this well water all through the year. The water is of extremely good quality, is good enough to use for drinking and cooking. He, however, does have a UV filter at home as well. So rainwater, if we are using it for drinking and cooking, it's advisable that we boil it or pass it through some filtration to remove bacteria. That's his well full of water that's pumped and used. This is another home in another layout where this gentleman recharged his well. Again, his well has water. An important part of rainwater harvesting also is not just to do it, but talk to your neighbors about it, show them what difference it has made, because that inspires a lot of people. And that's really part of the reason we are having this visit to the school also. When schools talk to schools, when homes talk to homes, they really understand and imbibe a lot of this a lot better. This is a school, again, just to give you a few examples. They're right next to a lake. They had a borewell. The borewell didn't have sufficient water. Then a rainwater harvesting system was implemented in the school. A shallow open well was dug, recharged, and now that open well has water and the school is able to man. They had even resorted to buying tankers, but now there is water from the open well, and this is the open well that you see, and the school's maintenance, toilet cleanliness, all of that is managed with this open well water itself. Another layout here, it was more a problem of flooding, but with the well, the flooding decreased, and there is water in this well now, which they also use for gardening. Borewells are slightly different in the sense we have to understand, and there is a good borewell primer on the same site, bengaluru.urbanwaters.in. Watch it, see the videos to understand how a borewell really works. But the important thing is, if we are recharging a borewell directly, we are recharging the deep aquifer. We have to make sure that the water quality that we use to recharge the borewell with has to be equivalent to the water that we are fine drinking. So it has to be rooftop water after filtration. And the way it is done is that there are these perforations that are made in the borewell casing. This is done only for dry borewells, not dead borewells, mind you, but borewells that have dried over a period of time. That means they're accessing an aquifer. A pit of any dimension can be dug around the borewell, and it is filled with stones, and there is some logic to how these stones are filled, and we'll cover that in the training as well. The important thing to remember is that the big stones are closer to the outflow so that there are no restrictions to the outflow. So the way it works is water comes from here through this pipe, falls through these filtration zones, then through these perforations, falls right into the deeper aquifer, recharging the borewell. These are some images of what it looks like. We have observed that this also works very well. Many borewells come back to life. In Bangalore, we estimate that right now we have dug about, and when I say we, it's not bio, but the citizens of Bangalore and the institutions have come together. We have about 2 lakh open wells in Bangalore that are either recharging or withdrawing water from the aquifer. In many parts of the city, we've been able to see groundwater table rises, or in places where flooding has been mitigated. In fact, during these recent rains, while places were getting flooded, neighborhood apartments in their same vicinity called us back to tell us that thanks to these recharge wells, we didn't flood. So we are very thankful. We want to go back and see those places ourselves. So rainwater harvesting itself can offer you a sustainable source of water over a long period of time, as well as help you deal with flooding as well. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. And there is a lot that I have not covered, but that will get covered in the training, or we're happy to do more detailed sessions of how all of this can be done. Thank you.
That was excellent, ma'am. Actually, most of the we can say we got a clarity, and actually the statistics which you explain also supports the point that there are a number of people who really wanted to do it, and then they're giving the support in recharging the pits and wells. And they have realized also it is the high time that we have to recharge our wells, and how we can implement these things. So that is really an eye-opening for us. And in fact, I also went through situation like in Chennai when my parents were living. They were like, borewell got dried up, and then they were totally relying on the lorry tanks. So when I implemented, it was there rainwater harvesting, but sometimes what happened when we renovate the structure, the new people will try to block all the previous the drainage system. So that will actually give that will provide a lot of problems. So again, we could able to recall all the retrofitting, the rainwater harvesting pipelines, and then we could recharge the existing borewell, and that actually give a solution for to stop using the water tanks. Instead, we relied on the recharge pits. Second thing, what we faced is there were like one particular site where 4 people were living in the same site. And people started saying, and they were relied on well only for very long time, but because of some issues that well got dried up. So people were insisting to close the well totally, and I was totally against that. And then when I was renovating my old structure, with very simple steps, some pits were digged, and then I would like to filter it, and then I could recharge that well. And within 2 years, the results were there, and they could able to start using that well water. So I think these steps need to be taken. We should not blindly follow, that it is not supporting. So let's go for a borewell and then switching or closing the wells. It's really, really a bad decision. So I think people should really concentrate on that so that we can utilize all means of sources which is available. And then, of course, we have to reach out to Biome Environmental Trust, who have a lot of experience in all these things. So that will really help them. And yes, audience, so we have to make sure that you can. Yes, ma'am. Before
I would like to share again a
Yeah.
small story of my own house, because we live in Jakkur, and when we came here, and even now there is no water supply. So we had taken the help of Mr. A.R. Shivkumar, and we dug up this thing. We have a borewell which is only 123 feet, a shallow borewell, and we have a whole system of sand filter and a recharge well which is 20 feet deep, and that was in 2007. And till now I've been using that water. There are 3 more borewells that have been done on this site, which is more than 600 feet. One of them is 1,000 feet, and they all dried up. But my shallow borewell has been actually nourishing everybody, and all the on 4.5 acres, all the landscape that you see and everything that I have been recharging continuously. And I have just before putting into the sand filter, I also have a water garden through which all this water goes most of the time. And then the overflow from the water garden goes to the borewell. And that is like drinking quality water. And that's what, I just wanted to share that it's possible to do it. I think as Shubha, and Shubha, I really congratulate in a very simple manner. You have, it really made, you make it very simple to, and very encouraging for people to take up rainwater harvesting, I must say, in a simple manner. I think because when everyone around the world at a time when everyone is trying to make things complex, making it simple is something which is going to take us forward. And that's what I think was commendable in your presentation. And thank you so much for this. It's really very nice.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And I thought I'd just share this resource. I spoke about it, but so here, because finally it's actually great. It's so simple. You could do it yourself. It can be a lot of fun. At some point, we thought we should put together DIY kits for rainwater harvesting. But if not that, since most of us in the city are always reaching out to other people to do it, here is a list of vendors for all the things, sustainable things that you may want to do with water. Especially for rainwater, you need hydrogeologists, people who do borewell camera inspections, then PHE consultants, water metering, recharge well diggers. So you would find a fair bit of information here for people you would have to reach out to get the job done. I thought it would be useful to share. Similarly, The other thing is this particular tab on how to do rainwater harvesting has 4-part videos in Tamil, Telugu, English, Kannada, Hindi, which are you can watch it and do it yourself. You can get your plumber to watch it, do it, because it's there in all these languages. It's really very simple, short 10-minute videos that then tell you very step by step and the technical details, because a lot of things I didn't cover is about the plumbing itself, about the filter design, about the storage design, how do you size your storage. All of that is covered here. And so that is this how to do rainwater harvesting section. And you could also look at case studies and everything else to encourage your neighbors. There is a section on resources where you get good brochures that you can print. If you're working in a school, studying in a school, there is a bunch of resources for a school about how you can do. So there are posters you can print. If you reach out to us, we would also send high resolution copies to you. We find these case studies also, a lot of people like to read up other people's stories and say, oh, I live in a layout, here's what I can do. Or supposing this is about a farm, oh, this is what they did at the farm. Can I do something similar? Is it close to my house? This is an office space, Safina Towers, well-known landmark in Bangalore. So what did they do when they had seepage? So this is another section that I would quite recommend for anybody who has the time to take a look. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is great, ma'am. So if somebody can't, join for the training, so they could able to see this website and get support from this.
Sure.
And I have a doubt in your presentation. You were talking about that filters PVC gate wall, right? So the initial water will be drained and then later on the other water will start collecting. So
Right.
is it automatic or manually we need to switch those gates?
Yeah. It is right now, this is manual only. So what happens is the way it is to be operated, you have to design it appropriately. So the volume is equivalent to that 1 millimeters range. So let's say you have to put in place a system that next morning, every morning, 6 o'clock, I'll open it out so that it's ready for the next day's rain. So yes, it's a manual maintenance process. Having said that, some of the filters these days, one of the ready-made filters, which is there on the image, that is an automated system by which 10% of the water is continuously discarded. So every time a certain volume of water is coming, it's continuously doing the separation. So you could also, so that's a slightly more automated process that also has its challenges. I personally feel that this manual system works best because when you're tracking, you open it, you see what has gone down. When you open the first rain separator and the water drains out, you'll know what all got captured there, and it tells you about the roof, it tells you how much water has been harvested. So yes, it's a manual process, the images that I showed, but both exist. But we would advise the manual process for various reasons.
Fine, ma'am. Fine. Yeah, that will be great. Okay, so I think we have come to the last part of the session, and but we'll take over to this next session, which talks about lake rejuvenation also. But before this, I would request you to check this out. So 1 minute. Can you see the screen, ma'am?
Yep. No, not yours. Maybe I have to stop sharing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So you can see here, like this talk is not going to stop here. We are going to extend this simple talk with a training also. So for that, we have decided one location, that is Sonapanalli Government School, where this biome solutions, they have taken up initiative and then they have implemented solutions. So it will be great that if you can meet there, and then we can actually provide you a training like how the implementation can happen. And you might be having a lot of questions, so you can speak to them then and there. There are 2 resource persons who is going to be there with us. So venue is Sonapanalli Government School, and the date which we planned for this training is 8th October 2022. And these are the 2 resource persons who will be there. Yeah, so they are Mr. Shivanand and Rakshita, part of Biome Solutions only. And so it's basically a small village or a hamlet in Elhanka Taluk, and it has a rich tradition of open wells. So the session will consist of a visit to a government school, and then it can be like which has implemented various management practices like rooftop rainwater harvesting, recharge wells, and aerators. So it will be great if you can actually reach out there and then try to take out this good opportunity. And basically, Shivanand is a water management and sustainability consultant at Biome, and he's passionate about sustainable architecture, water and waste management, kitchen gardening, alternative education, and psychology. And Rakshita, the other resource person who's going to be there, she's worked extensively in documenting Tumkuru's waters and sanitation development and environment, and her broad areas of interest, and she's passionate about entrepreneurship, public policy, and rural development. So we are very glad that the whole team of Biome is with us, to advocate about water solutions, especially with respect to rainwater harvesting. So please grab this opportunity. We'll be circulating all the posters in the social media very soon, and you can register yourself and make sure that you have to communicate to that venue on your own, and so that it will be great. And timings we have already given, so make sure that you are free on that time. It's on Saturday, so everybody can make sure that you can reach out to that place. We're really interested with this topic. And so with this, we have concluded this session, and we are very happy. Please stay connected with us. And these are the common questions. I hope most of the points have been covered. And as ma'am said, we will continue this with the training session so that you can, cover up all the other queries also in the training. You can contact them in this website, www.rainwaterclub.org or biometrust.org, or this mobile number. Soon we'll be sharing even in the social media links as well in the contact, or in the social media. You can contact them in future if you have any requirement. So thank you so much for your time, Dr. Shubha ma'am. It was really, really great the way you have presented. As ma'am was mentioning, it's very simple. And though everybody knew, things need to be changed, or they have to invest some money on all those things, because water has become a crisis, and that's the only elixir of life we have. Like, without water we can't live, but still they have to take time and manage it very properly. And this session, we think that it is really helpful for you, and it's just a revamping things which is already happening, but ensure this you will drop in for the site visit also, and grab that opportunity for you to implement in your own projects. Thank you so much, ma'am. And for you and your team, of course, we'll be connected in the future as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Shubha. Thank you.
So see you with the next session. Thank you so much. Signing off from Radhika. Jai Hind.
Thanks.